Plain Talk. My name is Christopher Ram. Thank you for joining me once again on this Wednesday evening. As you know, this program is broadcast live on at this time, and then on Sundays in the afternoon, it is rebroadcast on WRHM. There have been lots of things happening recently, locally and internationally. And I've got a seasoned ex-minister, former minister of the APNU AFC government, and currently shadow minister, oil and gas, Mr. David Patterson is our guest. David, thank you very much for accepting my invitation. I've rather short notice today, I recognize you.
No, good night to you and your viewers, and it's all right, Chris. Always glad, as I told you when I last met, once I get invited, I do my best to be here.
And today's this evening is your executive meeting of the
yes.
AFC.
AFC, so I just came straight out of that here.
I thank
but
you
that's
very
okay.
much. Well, tell me, how is the AFC doing?
Well, as you said, like every other thing, we're regrouping and rebounding, to be quite frank, I think the entire opposition took a bit of and as always, when you lose in elections, nobody really likes losers. People don't remember who comes second, they always remember the victor. So like any other opposition, any other country that would have lost the election 2 years ago, we're regrouping, There's always been a complaint that you would not have done enough. There's a complaint that you lost touch with some of your members. So we're just taking the time to go back, re-engage, try to get new membership, younger membership. Most of us are in the autumn of the years. Politics-wise, not age-wise. For myself, I want to say that, but politics-wise, we just celebrated our 17th year.
Oh.
And I've been around for 17 years in politics, and that's a long while. So age-wise, you may not be there, but as a political movement, 17 years is enough. So, and I think we're doing quite reasonably well. The feedback that you get from the ground is, and first thing people want you to acknowledge it, that you could have done better with the opportunities that you have. There's still some issues which persons feel very passionate about, which we had to, which we were unable to accomplish right off the bat. Constitutional reform, that was our issue. So, but we've explained, we've acknowledged our shortfalls. You can't. I know for myself, I haven't reflected on anything like that. You have to admit that you weren't perfect, and move on.
David, were you one of the proponents of all the elections had been stolen?
No,
but you did not win.
You've never heard me speak on the elections or the results and so, right? I know that other than opportunity I was asked to coordinate the technical accounting, things like that. That's my forte, organization, and that's what I did. So I've never actually sat on it. There's a winner, there's a loser, and we have a winner. We have to acknowledge that. I don't see any reason why you can't acknowledge. As long as you sit in the opposition side of the benches, you have acknowledged it implicitly and formally, because you've taken an oath.
You don't take the position that this government is installed.
Well, no. The government is the government. And the GCOM, Madam Singh declared a winner, and she declared a winner to be the PPP. She declared that we are in opposition. And we're in opposition. And until until there's another elections, I think that we should use our energies to, as I said, reconnect with our voters, try to be as more effective in our opposition, highlight as much as we can, and then win back the support if wherever possible, and win new support we're available.
Well, I think my own knowledge is that you wouldn't. I've never heard you make the accusation that anybody with the elections, but the key members of the leadership of the AFC did. Do you think that has harmed the AFC as it tries to regroup
Well,
and recharge itself?
Chris, that is one of the beauties that I like about the AFC. This the liberal democracy. I mean, it's the only political party that I've been in. You know, what I mean, we have bitter, just this evening, I'll tell you, we have bitter disagreements. We are allowed to say and speak as liberally as we can. We don't. We're not as rigid as the other two parties. It has affected. It has caused us some angst in the past. You know, what I mean, everything you say gets out in the press. You will get members saying things that are diverse from the leaders, and the leaders saying things that are diverse from some of the membership. Liberal democracy, unfortunately or fortunately, dictates that you have to allow the people the space. Every member of the AFC is free to express their opinions publicly, and they have.
But
And you know
that's
that.
something of a threshold issue, though. Not accepting the results of an election in a democracy.
Yeah, very good. As I said, the mere fact that I am the shadow minister means that there is a substantive minister, and I have accepted it as substantive minister, and I'm here to perform my duties as the shadow minister of.
I don't want to push it, but you did for 5 months the party as the member of the government.
Yeah.
As well. The party kept up this mantra, election for it. And my question really was whether it is affecting the party as it seeks to regroup. But at one time you got thousands and thousands of votes.
Well, yeah,
You were
I think
well regarded. for-
37. But yeah, I mean, of course, because we started out as a totally independent party. Circumstances have changed. You know, I mean, for one, understand what happened in 2015. And that would be primary. I don't think that I can say for 100% certainty if our constitution didn't force you to have pre-elections coalition, I know that we would have never been into pre-elections coalition. That's correct. We as a party would have never been in. But that's how the constitution has been written, the 1980 constitution. And that's why, and I made mention of one of the things that we are going back to say we're sorry to our supporters is one of the reasons primary reasons was to try and get that change so that in 2020 you were back to your original status quo where you wanted to be the same liberal democracy, say what you want about support one side on one cause, support the other side on one cause, or neither of them on a particular third cause.
Although the Constitution doesn't provide for coalition before the elections, it does provide for a joinder of parties. Do you think you missed that?
Well, I must be 100% honest with you. I was unaware of that,
Yeah.
so I'm not saying that we missed it or overlooked it. So I was 100% that. So I'm not a constitutional expert.
Yeah.
I joined politics as the formation of the Alliance for Change, and my role was basically interfacing with GCOM, the logistics. I mean, I did continue to do until recently the administrative work. That particular clause in the Constitution, I don't know if my colleagues, because they're way more seasoned than me, were aware of it, but I can tell you from where I said I missed that they're together.
What would you say is probably the biggest mistake made by the AFC in government?
Well,
Or you might want to say what is major achievement as well.
The achievements I could wax lyrically about that all the time. Let me say, and once again, this is liberal democracy, so I'm speaking on behalf of myself, and I've told the party that one of the biggest mistakes we made, I feel, is that when you sent all your leadership into government, into the cabinet, that construct of collective responsibility is very, very strong.
Yeah.
So the sense that, you know what I mean, so despite it, and we did have tremendous arguments, we did put our position strongly, we did on issues, but when you come out of a cabinet, when a cabinet makes decisions, I mean, that's the first thing that we were told is you're collectively responsible. So having all of our
But that's
leaders.
more the Westminster
Well, we are
rather than Liberal Democrat.
No, but we are on the Westminster concept when it comes to our cabinet and those things like that. You know what I mean? And our constitution.
I mean, because
And you may check. I think there's even a clause in the constitution referring to
that's correct. If the rules don't provide that,
So by having all of our leaders, I don't like to say top tier leaders, but all of our senior leaders in there, the issues on which we felt and disagreed and wanted to air publicly had to be done by others, and I think that is and that worked. So persons got the impression that we were just following this time, but on occasions, on several occasions, it was real raucous in the cabinet. But then obviously, when a decision is made, there were 7 Alliance for Change cabinet members versus, I mean, so, and everyone had a equal say. So that I think is one. You know, I mean, I could distinctly recall the parking meters, which was in 2016, I think, which we were totally against it. I mean, obviously, but obviously that, and we called for, and we did get inquiries, we did ask for a review, we did put it, but in the end we had to speak to Sherrod, because you're in cabinet, and you know what I mean, and then of course we had to do other stuff within your ministry to try and do it, because we thought it was a very badly implemented concept. Not that we're against parking meters, I mean, a lot of persons say that if you're against something, you're against the concept. We're not against the concept of parking meters, how it was implemented. But you know, I mean, not the sense that, you mean, there's no alternatives. You know, I mean, if you're going to implement it for public transportation, you got to make certain issues and so. So in the end, even though at every meeting, every cabinet meeting, I can remember all of us sit down saying, "Oh, this is harming us. This is not," so forth. In the end, when you publicly, and then we did say that Sheriff Duncan speaks to the party on the parking meeting. He was the deputy mayor at the time. I mean, I think he started the whole protest movement and those things. It affected the Alliance for Change because most of the persons in the protest were quite familiar to our party. But that is one of the issues I think that at least if it ever happens again, I would insist on it. If I'm ever in it, don't.
But
Some of the
that
leaders.
was a city council matter. That was not an AFC matter.
It was, but it affected all of us. It affected. I mean, it affected the business community. You know what I mean?
I say that.
Well, the decision wasn't, but the city council was controlled by APNU, AFC.
Okay.
Right. So therefore, it was a party matter, and you know. And we don't distinguish between a city council decision and a governmental decision and those things. I'm not talking about you, Chris, you would, but I'm talking about the general populace. There's not a clear distinction between local government and central government throughout all the years of recent vintage.
You said you could wax lyrical on the achievements of the APNU FC government. Yet it lost the elections.
Correct.
And there are not many legacies that one can
define a legacy.
identify.
Define a legacy.
Well,
Yes.
something positive and meaningful
So
for
therefore,
which you will be remembered by it.
well, you see that
Succeeding generation.
I want to disagree
Disagree,
on that. You know what I mean? Because obviously that's what's driving this unplanned development now. I mean, people transformational projects.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So therefore, to have a legacy, you could run ahead with a Marriott, and you say that's my legacy. But but if you do these things, I mean, the Burbis Bridge, Skeldon does a legacy, right? That was but there are there are issues which I do think that because it impacts the life so readily. Let's talk piracy. It was rampant in 2015. You know what I mean? That's the talk crime. It was done. We can talk. You can talk the power sector, the electricity sector was way better than it is now. You know what I mean? You can talk ICT penetration. It was way higher. So you mean you could talk water. We unserved electricity. We connected about on the GPL. We made force GPL to connect because they had a policy whereby persons had to pay capital contributions and those things. That we connected over 70,000 homes and those things like that. We instituted better policies and so. But if you want to point at a project or something like that and say that's a legacy, well, we can probably be that. We spent and I spent a tremendous amount of time laying the groundwork for everything that is being, every single thing that is going to be done now. You know what I mean? Because my background is a technical background, and I can't, and no matter what, even if you give me the money, I can't run into a project like they're doing here. You just get up and announce it.
Your legacy is roundabout, isn't it?
No, that's roundabout.
I think for the new ones, you reintroduced Garrett the roundabout.
Yeah, but that wasn't. I didn't start out to do that. I mean, if you could remember, that the massive big sinkhole in by Kitty roundabout, Kitty, and so you had to do over that area. So we took the opportunity to do that. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I instituted something which I'm hope glad that the government is following now, that we stopped using timber bridges. You know, I mean that was a policy. That was a personal hate of mine, not because I don't think we have good timbers, but I find that you know, I mean, the cost in use. I mean, you have to change it every 10, 15 years and those things like that. You know, I mean, we did that. If you want to talk, I mean, there's the most modern asphalt plant in the country sitting there. That was part of the plan, whereby we wanted to do more through the government as opposed to going out to the private sector. Not the thing. There's a lot of work for them to do, and I wanted to do more as a government arm, because of obviously what we found is we don't have the capacity, and we still don't have the capacity there. Introduction of small contractors, the government now is talking wax lyricism, but we introduced that.
Yes.
I mean, we went to I myself personally went to the GRA to ask them to give you a 1-year moratorium on compliances, because that's the thing. And to NIS, so a new contractor can bid and get a job first-time contractor, but he doesn't have to, and the waiver of him having NIS and GRA compliance at his first bid was not there. But then obviously by the end of his first year, second year, you must have to have it before you can leave.
When the closure of the sugar estates was decided, were you on the side of closing estates?
Oh no! I mean, I was. I mean, and now we can speak about it. Myself and Kemraj Ramchitan in particular, we would like to. I would like to take some credit for even delaying the implementation of that, because we insisted on going and meeting the sugar, COI persons. We insisted on because we insisted that we must have alternative revenue streams and those things like that, you know. So I could remember, at least when I sitting around the panel, there's Parvington and there's some guys who know everything about sugar. I mean, that they've been in the industry, and then there's guys who know everything about it. And I was like, well, have you considered this? Have you considered this? I went to them, personally went to them to say, comes with a cost if you give every sugar worker an acre of land. And I think they were very keen on that. But why I think that fell through is that when you use the land as collateral in the bond,
Yes.
right? Obviously, it's the control of the DP enough of it because those ones because I can remember asking my engineer. We would start off at Orton Dam. We said, man, we just going to bulldoze so they could go with tractors and we give them an acre of land. People were saying, oh, they can sell it as soon as they get it. I said, so what? This land. I mean, myself and Kemach, and then the alliance would change, insisted. And you may know this, Chris. But you see, we don't talk about these things now because, we never talk. We insisted that we must find some alternative. And we went to cabinet and we got cabinet to prove, Rafael Trotman got cabinet to prove, we put our first show there in Burmese before we closed the estates. And we went to Louisiana, and there was a public bid, and then there was a company called Everson Swish. I can't remember the name, but they're out of Louisiana or one of the Bayou countries and those things like that. And they came and they said, well, listen to me, we're willing to fund the shore base, and we started there. We went to cabinet approved it, because we said, fair enough, what we do, if you move sugar, at least you must drive some positive development there. Unfortunately, this is public knowledge that by the time we did it, some part that we were going on that stretch between the bridge and Crab Island and where the CGX Lands and Surveys has said that out that there was state land. Lands and Surveys at the time, I don't know what they were a mess. And when we announced the thing, there's some guys from Britain, of all places, came and turned up and through the former British ambassador, objected, they thought they had the lease. And of course they went straight to the former president, who sent us a long thing saying that these guys had a lease and they entered into an agreement with someone else and those things like that. And that was why we never progressed with trying to develop that section. But there's a cabinet paper, a cabinet approval, and then this happened.
But having closed this, or having decided to close this, you didn't even pay the people the termination pay.
Well, from what I understand, from what I can recall, I think they were paid half a termination. They were supposed to get the other half later on in the year. I think so. When at the termination, because the Minister of Finance said that you just didn't have the money to pay, so we paid half, and then of course before the second half was paid, I think they went to court and we immediately have to pay the other half. But within 6 months, they received it.
When you all came on the scene, partly on account of the former Prime Minister Nagamoto and Kemaraj himself from Arndane, you did extremely well. Is there any chance you can get back any of that support?
I do think so. I do. So I am optimistic. You know what I mean? Of course, it all depends on the party and the final decision and the direction of the party. They can be in a Liberal Democratic Party. We obviously have to go to a vote and those things like that. There is need at this stage to have some sort of regain some sort of control of the Parliament. I do think that is probably the first step. With the majority, the one-seat majority, so many things have happened. You know what I mean? I do think that there's an opportunity for the line to change. You get back where you were, and to make bring some sense and order to it, to what's going on. You know what I mean? I particularly would like to, if we have the opportunity to go and address a natural resource fund bill. I mean, the deficiencies there. You know what I mean? It's been enacted for since February. We've heard nothing at all. I don't even know if they have ever actually met. The drawdown formulas are extremely generous to the government of the day, you know what I mean, and very ungenerous to our future generations.
Yes.
The amount of the stabilization sections, I mean, we have highest cost of living, I don't know for well, you may know. The fund is supposed to automatically act on something like that as opposed to what's happening now, and the government is using it as a political tool. The fund is supposed to protect us all equitably, I would hope. So there are issues, you know what I mean, with you do well. I mean, I am with if the parliament is not on, if you don't have a majority parliament, there are a couple of things that I would insist on, you know, some transparency on the Gas to Show project, some transparency on all the issues that are going around now, you know what I mean, the public procurement, you know what I mean, there are companies that 3 months and they're getting $1 billion contracts, you know what I mean, you know, you bring some sense and order there, and then obviously, and you slowly try to turn the ship around in the right direction, so the haves cannot be as far away from the have-nots.
Has your party taken a decision on whether it will continue an alliance with the ABNU?
Well, at our last national conference, which was in June, the national conference voted that on the expiration of the court has a sunset clause where it's valid for 36 months, minimum of 36 months, maximum of 60, which is 3 years. The party took this decision that they would like to exit at the expiration date in 3 months. And I think that's what we're working towards.
So when is it going to be?
It will be on the 20. Well, it was signed on on Christmas Eve Day, 2019. So it may be the 25th. I don't know it depends how you come to, or the 23rd, or the actual 24th. But the leadership are doing that. I mean, I contested for leader and quite democratically lost. So that is one of the.
But you still serve the party?
Of course, I'm in the national executive, right, which will meet as opposed to the general secretary, chairman, or something like that. So they that particular the leaders who have my full support, but they are the ones that are.
Are you free at this stage to say whether the party has decided on taking part in local government elections?
No, our meeting is on Saturday coming. Actually, to be honest, the meeting, we have our meeting on Saturday coming. I think sometime in the afternoon. Of course, they are always there are two views. You know, I mean, I think the chairman Katri expressed her view quite seriously that she doesn't think she would like the party to be involved with so many issues. You know, I mean, but I think she just preempted what half of the party is saying. The other half is saying no, we should contest. Quite interesting, I seen the Dominican opposition today said how they wouldn't be contesting.
What's your position on this?
Well, I have the feeling that I for the sake of the country, I do think that the GCOM should not be so rigid. If half of the population has a problem with the list, they shouldn't be parroting exactly what the government is saying. GCOM is supposed to say, well, listen to me, you have a problem in the list. Do you have any proposals which will enhance enhance your participation, issues about your participation? You know what I mean? The question of biometrics came along, but if it's a good opportunity. If you're not going to do biometrics, you can say, well, listen to me, we can put in some additional safeguards. We can help you, fund you to have additional scrutineers, you know what I mean? But just simply to do nothing at all and to say, that's it, and to move motor ahead, I think it's really irresponsible. The government set out that the Chief Justice has ruled. GCOM hasn't even discussed it. So but as a constitutional body, they can say, well, fair enough. You have these concerns. Our hands are tied or not on a new house registration list. However, we are willing to, because it's on their mandate, we are willing to say, listen to me, that we're going to pay for two scrutineers or two scrutineers per polling station, right? One outside, one inside, something. And if you start thinking like finding solutions like that, we can move forward. But this absolute position, so therefore, I mean, so I myself say to do things all the time. I find GCOM wanting, the government will have their side and we will have our, and the opposition, we do have our thing. But as a GCOM can do better, they simply ignore all the calls, ignore all the positions, have not come up with anything. The GCOM can say, listen to me, we'll do just for things, we'll do a 10% sampling of here what GCOM can do. I'd like to make a suggestion. Pull the list, everybody 75 and over. You could randomly put it, it's a database. And physically go and check to see if and say, well, listen, we check all the 75 years and older on this list, and 95% of them are in Guyana, are here. So therefore, obviously, that is confirmed that some sort of validity in my in the list. Therefore, or vice versa, that 95 of them are dead, which I hope not. Sorry for all the 75-year-olds. But you can do something rather than simply say that we're not doing anything, take it or leave it. Doesn't in today's world, this is it's not the way to manage.
Of course, we still have the decision by the Chief Justice.
Which I think, I always think, not please, Madam Chief Justice, don't think I'm criticizing you, but I do feel that we erred in not carrying that further by appealing it. You know, I mean, there must be some, because at some point in time, Chris, the list will get so big, and people don't understand, and the conversation keeps revolving around voting, but there are more serious implications. The GCOM determines the number of polling booths based on the size of the list, because everybody on that list has to be given an opportunity to vote. So last time we had 2,300 polling stations, right? Because and they use a figure like 300 persons per poller, right? The bigger you get. So the next election, if you keep on this, so we'll have 3,000 polling booths, because you're dividing this bloated, the bigger list by this 300, which is the
but
thing.
In that case, why didn't your party take an active role in the this review of the ROPA? Yeah, in fact,
We did.
you Cameron Ramjitan walked out from the Artichoke, Cameron
and I think, but we would have written things.
So you've made a written submission.
I do suspect that. I mean, Cameron and so, but the reason is that they thought that they were coming now, and I know, because I know that their notes. So I don't know if they submitted because we worked on our points.
Yeah.
So we said to our representative, we didn't like this, we want to propose this, we want to propose that, we want to change it. And I think Camraj Roysdale and several others were a bit annoyed that it was a discussion. It's supposed to be a discussion, interactive session. I think did not turn out to be that. So therefore, obviously, that I think was the objection. So therefore, the opportunity to raise the points which we discussed as a party, which we had notes on. You know what I mean? So he said, oh, I didn't like this, I didn't like that, I didn't like that. This isn't, we agree with this, we don't agree with that. They don't have that opportunity.
Whatever the limitations, and I'm sure I was in the Artichoke Convention Center. I raised some questions I did not get answers, a number of them. And ironically, one of the questions I asked was whether this bill would be referred to a select committee. What's going to be your party's position?
We will, obviously we'd like it to have referred to a select committee. That I think is the bare minimum. I think it's doubtful. I think they want to push it through before they would like to push it through, and they will claim they had consultation. That one day session with you, that 3 hour session with you, you know what I mean? Which is, you know, I mean, it's a flying
I think Cameron described it as a soliloquy
Yeah.
at one point,
Yeah.
yes. Let's move on. I want to ask you a couple of questions because...
Time is going, you know what I mean?
Yes, the climate conference.
Uh-huh.
That's one of the big things happening. COP27, the world is really heating up. It's going to burn at some point.
Literally, yeah.
Yeah. All the many, the majority of the world leaders have gone. We sent a minister, John Barrett.
You know what I mean? First off, he's not a bad youngster. I mean, he's quite young as an individual. I mean, I think he'd be way out his depth at COP 27, but as an individual, he's not a bad youngster. But in truth, right, we don't have a policy. I mean, they speak with LCDS and LCDS 30 and those things like that, you know what I mean? But our energy policy hasn't been updated. I mean, the last time it was updated was in when I did it. The only energy thing you talk about, in 2015 there was not all the money you had with LCDS. There was not a single renewable project other than a Milo in 2015.
Yeah.
In place. Not a single, not a solar, not a land, not a single project. And it's exactly the same. So we don't have so what we do, we produce a set of LCDS 3.0 or 2.0 what it is. But that's just a dossier. So
But do you think we Guyanese should have a firm position, including from the
all Guyanese, because it affects all of us.
on this question of climate change and how we deal with it?
Yes, there you go. So
In fact, we just doing the opposite of climate change,
exactly.
and then saying the gas to shore project.
It's a transitional project and those things like that, you know. But so really and truly, I mean, young Vikram is going to go there and they're asking, what's your point? Say, oh, we have an LCDS policy, you know, I mean, a low carbon policy. And then you probably regurgitate some of the off-use things that we transition in. And so, but there's no policy, you know what I mean? I was trying to explain to someone, and Christopher, the private sector, unfortunately, are a main contributor to some of these things. Not climate change, the misinformation. A private sector, senior private sector person was saying to me that the gas ashore are going to probably, when it's finished, they're going to reduce electricity. And I was like, well, brother man, do you realize that the gas ashore is only powering the Demerara, Berbice, and anything? He said, what about Bartica? What about Essequibo? Mm-hmm. What about Linden? Because not even connected. He said, so you all just sit down and parrot these things without even thinking, if you're going to transition, you're only transitioning 4 towns, we have 10 towns. The gas shore project will only do Georgetown, New Amsterdam, Rose Hall, Cricketon. Mm-hmm. All the 6 towns will not be affected by this. How are you going to transition it? How are you going to say it? Don't they matter? You know what I mean? But they're just sort of myopic and they're just parroting what they heard, what they've heard.
Do you believe there's nobody has seen the study? There's no real study. There's no EPA.
Chris, as I once again, you know, I mean, it sounds like a wax lyrically, but the only studies done on gas were the 5 studies which I did, and I handed over all those studies in 2018. So therefore, they're 5 years old, right? And they were
handed them over
to the Department of Energy. Remember, that 1st of August 2018.
Yeah.
No, there's no economic studies. All it is with pre-feasibility studies. Literally, we wanted an independent person to say that technically it's possible, because of course you hear so much. I mean, you hear that you could put a man on the moon, and you hear Guyana could have we could launch rockets from in the region 1 or so, and that's all nice, good gaff. We love the gaff in Guyana. So we hired independently an engineer to say it was technically possible that you can actually bring a pipe up the continental shelf and come to shore. That's what he did. He did not do any, and if you know that they're called desktop studies. Mm-hmm. So they did. I mean, so you know the difference between the desktop study and the full feasibility study.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that, and they've taken these depth of studies and said, yes, this is what it is.
But this is going to be the
news
largest project ever in Guyana.
ever.
I mean, it will make Skeldon, the disaster called Skeldon, look like petty cash.
Yeah, it's like if you had a party, just like a birthday party. And you think about it, and they're just making this thing up as they go along. One, they haven't even told us how they're going to connect to our grid. You're getting even better yet, Chris. Let me tell you why they're making this thing as you go on. They're claiming 2024. I'm giving everybody the benefit of the doubt because it's your program. It was my program.
No, you please feel free.
Right. But I'm giving everybody the benefit of the doubt. So they're saying they're going to turn on these switches to these 200 megawatts of power in 2024. Benefit of the doubt. They have no plan to get us from today to 2024. So much so they're now have ads out to rent generators, 50 megawatts. I mean, so that just the rental of that for 3 years, that's about another $200-something million just in the rentals it is. But that has to be added on to the gas Ashore project, because obviously if they had a plan, they would have been addressing systematically. The study that we left there has a nice, simple, smooth curve on our energy demands. You know what I mean? It says that every year you need this, you need that, you need that. They just going for the sweetie and at the end of the sweetie, the end of the rainbow, and they just forgot that we have to live and survive.
I saw Routledge today quoted in the press, clearly treading on politics in Guyana.
Need the right
See
government.
what you can get from a good government. I mean, that is
Well,
damn rude.
But I've been part of the game as a minister, so you know how they're coming for something. They want something. I'm surprised because this government is very acquiescent. They give them everything, so I don't know if there's some issue.
Who gave them everything?
The government gives Exxon everything they want, without any fight, without any pushback, without any you know what I mean. No semblance of you know what I mean, that you're trying to the flaring. Exxon up to now haven't gotten the compressors right, but you say, okay, you flare and you pay me $1. You know what I mean? EPA, the permits, you know what I mean? This is the only country in the world I know of that EPA says that Lisa 1, your nameplate, which is it's just like your max speed in a car, is 100 miles an hour. Without announcing that you're doing it anything like that, Exxon said we've made modifications and we are now, if they haven't adjusted their permit, we can now do 120. And you know, and the government hasn't even had the courage to say to us how and what they couldn't fix their compressor for 3 years. What modifications could they do to 20,000 barrels, Chris? But the government just wants the money, and they haven't even adjusted the a day by $50 a barrel. Money.
But are you all going to react to this clear interference by Exxon?
Well, of course, of course.
This is extremely rude.
So you know, Chris, it is Exxon they've been at this way longer than me. I mean, they've been colonizing and extracting in third or so-called countries much longer than I've been around. And you as well. I mean, I know how you think.
Well, Exxon has been around well.
Yes,
Standard
So they know how to play this politics game. While we were there, I knew.
Why should we allow it?
Because it's the government. It's the government. When 2015, we insisted that every new oil find that they personally go, like how the government brief us, they go to the opposition and say this is what we found and this is what we discovered. We insisted. Exxon was in front of the Natural Resources Committee of Parliament. You can recall that. And twice. The Natural Resources Parliament hasn't even met once. Now, not to meet to call Exxon, you know. Hasn't even met once
Anything else,
for
that's
anything else. You know what I mean? So the Exxon they're quite happy with that. When you question when you go to the public forums, you say to them, when I went to the public forum, and I asked, well, tell me what new studies has Exxon done to say that you're moving from area A to Wales, but you said when we asked you to do it, your same consultants, URM, said it out, it was a no-go. They said, oh, we work with the government of not only they said we tell the government because it's a provider of the land, and our only job is to. But while we were there, we asked them to check URM, which is there, they just changed the money. So it's a bad location, the exact same location, right? But so they pamper and they hide behind the government. That's for sure.
Now they're leading the government.
No, they're buttering them up.
They've been allowed now to lead. In fact, this gap to show this so-called financing.
Well,
and the money will probably come out of.
Well, that is something. Someone asked me that yesterday, and I don't know how it's going to be. How it's going to be financed. I know that they said it's cost recoverable. Is it? And maybe something you should
yes,
do.
No,
Are they going to put their money
that's
in
right.
and then take it back out? It comes out of the
it.
But are they going to put the money in first, or are they going to take
it comes
it?
out of that fund. It comes out of
the sovereign wealth fund?
No, not the natural resource fund, but it comes out of the pool of funds generated out of the. I mean that's unbelievable, and it is not provided for in the agreement. But they don't want to take you up on something. You're a courageous person. You accuse this government of being generous to ExxonMobil.
Yes. So I know where you're going, Chris.
Yeah, well,
2016. So you know.
How could you do that?
No. But you correct. We did it. We signed it. And it's no secret, and we acknowledge it. But I have not heard anybody, and unfortunately, my colleague, best friend, Raphael, has taken the position that he is not generally good, other than make some general statements, you know what I mean? So it curtails me as much as I could say, but I can tell you this, Chris, let us go on. Oil was discovered in, I think, May the 8th on 2015. We won elections, Granger was sworn in, the new government was sworn on May the 16th. The Minister of Petroleum from May the 16th to December the 31st, 2015 was His Excellency President Granger. When he met with Exxon at the very first occasion, and they met with Exxon during 2015 on the margins of, I think Carl Granger would have told you, on the margins of the UN, the UN and those things like that, you know what I mean? When Exxon asked for the government support to go to early production and those things like that, Mr. Truckman was nowhere around. So he was nowhere around. 1st of January, and I think what happened, and if you do the research, and Raphael keeps telling you this instructed, Exxon then said to the president, all right, you know what I mean, Carla said that they provided some help with getting our case referred to, well, you know what I mean, whatever it is, whoever the lobbyists helped us in getting our case referred to ICJ. He's spoken publicly about that. So when they said, fair enough, Mr. And I've seen correspondence which said that Mr. President, which would be the President, the Minister, we need to enter into move this process forward. Right? Then is when someone says, you know what I mean, or must we whisper to him and say, oh, you don't have the time or you don't want to be involved in that and those things. And that is on the 4th of January, Raphael got this, the oil and gas.
1st of January this year.
2016. Right? 2016. The agreement was already there that you use the 2012 model agreement.
No, but that's what now you're a technical person, a very competent technical person, right? I don't think you give me enough credit for your technical competence.
We're on the 2016.
Yeah, but here it is. the 2012 agreement, 2012 model, which, and I've said this is a Robert Passard model.
And
This
it's-
is a PPP model.
And it's been around for like 4 years, even before, four years before we signed.
They said, well, possibly.
No one comment on, on it, you know.
Well, I have said consistently.
Prior to 2016.
But my problem is this. My problem is this. How could you apply your rational, your technical, your professional? How could you apply a pre-discovery agreement to a post-discovery scenario? What's the logic? How could you justify that?
I obviously,
It doesn't make sense.
the GGMC, there's a ministry involved in it. So what I know, what I don't even mean, I think I've been part of it. What I know is that I've seen correspondence which says that the 2012 would be the base. This is when Mr. Trotman took over. If you're saying that all the base is flawed, yes, maybe you're right.
No, I'm
Also.
simply saying if you applied a pre-discovery model to a post-discovery situation. We had already had 2 fines. One,
No,
because
Chris. No, Chris. No. Let us be
No,
factual.
you're not.
Let's be factual. When the 2016 PSA was signed, we had one only.
I know one that was a
$400 million.
No.
400 million barrels.
No. Yes, but it was a post-discovery. But you know
Yes,
that,
it was post-discovery. Yeah, we didn't have
on.
2 discoveries.
Hold on. No, we did. Because this, under the Act, from the time you get a sign of hydrocarbon, you have to advise the minister. The minister would have known. It's only a couple months. Then, the minister then says, okay, if you want to do it, go and do an appraisal well. So the minister is kept up to date on all developments. That's under the law. That's under the law.
I can't
That's under the law.
dispute or not because
That's under the
I
law.
was not a
That's
minister.
under the law.
So but as a cabinet member, I'll tell you the time
Yeah.
I heard about the oil discovery, the second one,
Yeah.
at the same time.
But it came out after, yes.
the same time as everyone else. I can tell you that as a cabinet member.
you realize Exxon was playing games with you all. They held back. They
But the
discovered
percep-
the announcement
It was
until you
after-
got signed the agreement.
The perception can
They're-
be
they're crooks.
No, this perception can be there. I mean, obviously, you would have to. Raphael probably have to ask if he knew, but he said I didn't know because obviously it would have to come to cabinet because it would be duty bound to bring it to cabinet. So if they did it deliberately or not, in hindsight, you can probably say it out from how they operate now. They may or may not, but I can't confirm or
No,
deny that.
but David, look, you must have read.
It was very coincidental, sir, that if you would like me to say that after the PSA was signed, that shortly after a second discovery was announced. If you want me, and
But you
I
know as
acknowledge
well,
that.
that when Dennison
Mhm.
went with his deputy to Texas to discuss some technical issues on an ongoing contract. First, let me tell you this: they were not entitled to a second contract. You all made a fundamental mistake. The scheme of the legislation: one contract lasting 10 years for,
Correct. So 1999.
prospecting,
Right,
for
right.
prospecting,
Right.
barring any force majeure.
Mhm.
But you go and give them something as though they've never been here. You give them back acreage on which they should have had
Yeah, so
relinquishment.
relinquish- Well, I would have thought all those things would have been into consideration. To be honest, when
It was a disaster.
To-
And we were paying for that.
we are, you can say so, but there's still there is still a lot of money being made,
Oh, no.
and we still have an opportunity. Yes.
I hope you don't go down that road.
And we
let-
still have an opportunity to adjust what has been done.
No, because you
We
have
still
to
have
make-
an opportunity. We still have an opportunity
No,
to adjust.
well, because the PDP
Nothing-
government is singing the extra tune. Like, for example, this business I've written, this question of ring fencing. You don't need
I
ring
suppo-
fencing to tell them, look, you can't use the money from this field to go and do another
I
field.
fully support that. I fully endorse the question.
And this government is colluding with
I
with
fully
Exxon.
endorse
But
ring
let me-
fencing.
I'm going to shoot you again.
Mm.
Why did you all hide this information on the signing bonus?
This I tell you, the legal advisors and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, right? insisted, right, that until the case is referred to the ICJ, cause between I think 2017 or 2016 and 2017, you had a Norwegian fella doing what it is. He was a good fellow. He was a
Yes,
Ban
yes, good
Ban
officers.
Simon
Yeah, yeah.
person who was going to
yes, that's right.
to Venezuela, and then he made a
Yes.
report with
Good officers. Yes,
Yes,
you and
so-
good
so-
officers. Yes.
they and this is and obviously though you have to listen to the foreign affairs and lawyers. They said that Venezuela, right, would use that as say because they've always claimed that it's political interference and it's America and those things like that, and they would that right or wrong, Mr. Carlgren just said it publicly some occasion, and he said that it's not the opportune time to open up this here until it is referred to the ICJ.
Well, you know,
And you had to take you had to take
why then-
advice. You had to take advice.
but David, why?
And these are senior lawyers. I mean, this is Carl Green, Sudat Ranford, and these
Carl was not a lawyer.
senior
Yeah,
diplomat. So when they say things to you like that, you know what I mean, you say, great, fair enough. It's not that you're trying to hide anything, but these are the
At
consequences.
least be honest, because I had Mr. Rafa Trotman, and I understand that he's not well. I really
Well, he's
do
much,
feel-
he's
I
much
hope he's
easier.
getting
Yes,
better.
yes,
I hope
he is
no,
getting
but he
better.
came on this program and he said, "Oh, we just tweaked the 1999 agreement." He did.
Well, I was unaware of.
He said he came on this
I'm
program.
unaware of saying that you took the 1999.
Yes, that's what he
because-
said on this program.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
well, that is different because I always understood the base to be the 2012.
It might have been, and I think
I
think it was-
always understood the
and
base
the
to be.
clownishness of that base that Robert Prasad did, they sent it to Exxon and said, "Look, tell us where you want change in this thing." I mean, it's generous enough. That is the foolishness.
Well, but Chris, sometimes you simplify some serious matters. If me and you're going to sign an agreement to say and I draft it, you have to send it to me for me to look over it.
No,
So-
no.
But to comment.
You're the shadow minister
Uh-huh.
of oil and gas.
Yes.
Have you seen the 2012 model?
Yes, I've subsequent.
But you know it got square brackets that allows you to say, okay, I don't want this, I want to put in this. That's what you
I would have seen the 2012 model, the 2012 and the 2016 posts because it's not my portfolio. You trust your colleagues. You mean so you say that with me because I would hate to think it out that every time I did energy policy, I would have because they're all chicken involved that you'd have to not give me a summary.
This tweaking the agreement and the 1999.
Well,
until you
I am not. I must say I have not heard. I heard tweaking, but not the 1999.
Yes.
Because the 1999 was totally obsolete. I always thought I
Well,
was always.
in 2016, the 1999 agreement was still in place because we had an 8 years force majeure because the Surinamese
and yeah.
the Surinamese had entered the ship.
No, but right. So what I'm saying to you is that you know, I mean, I've always assumed that the base would have been the 2012, from which I honestly, I think we.
No, we're gonna wait.
2
No,
minutes. 2 minutes.
I want to ask.
So let's talk about something quite.
No. I want to ask you one other question. Sorry, it just has slipped me. Yes, what do you want to talk about?
No. So let's talk about something quite pleasant. I've seen the vice president has announced that all new contracts. There's a new financial regime. You know what I mean? What's your thoughts on that? I should throw that back to you.
Well, why is it? Why give a special tax concession? Tax rates here are 25% for non-commercial companies is what they are. Why? There are so many things that haven't said. Now the vice president goes there, talks, doesn't present a paper. We don't know what it provides in terms of.
The devils are the details. The devils are in the details.
It's meaningless.
That's my
absolute meaningless.
opinion. And look, and then of course excluding Exxon. I mean, You know, I once again,
Well, Exxon
once
got the country black as operator, so they don't worry.
no,
Exxon is
no, no,
still
no,
there.
no, no. They're excluding Exxon from the new regime, even if it's Florida or not. They're completely they. And I would have thought at some point in time they would.
Exxon agreed that with them, perhaps. I don't think they make any statement now. Look, they have been running around playing to Exxon's tune, and that's a fact. I'm sorry, our time is up. David, thank you very much.
It's been a
It's been a slow start, but
it's a pleasure here.
thank you, David. Operators and viewers, thank you. Good
Thank you
night.
very much. Good night, everyone.
Oh, I was going to ask you. We're not. I was going to ask you if you saw the Guide and Commonly report.